everyone, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Afterlife style melodic techno like Adriatique Innellea. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video for just $5 on my Bandcamp. The link is right at the top of the description, and yeah, let's get started. So, we start off with the kick here. You can see the kick is really simple. It's just this big, super punchy, hard-hitting, more almost like an 808 style kick like this. You can see I've tuned it as well because the original pitch of this kick was F, but this track is in G, so I put it up to G. Definitely important to tune your kick with the style, but yeah. You know, you just want like a really punchy, full-sounding kick like this. The secret is really in the low end, because this isn't as like clicky as some other kicks, but it still punches through the mix really nicely. And it's because it's just holding that down that like boom, boom, like really, really punchy low end. And then I just have it going through some drum bass. Then we have the bass. So you can see it's a very simple bass line. It's just following this chord progression where it goes G minor, F major, and then D sharp major. So we're just playing the root notes of that. Pretty simple too. It's just like that doom 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 doom, kind of like very progressive type of bass line actually. Now for the sound with this one, it's made with analog, so we have a saw wave and then a square wave an octave up. This is a really great way to make like a deep and fat bass like this. The secret is we're taking this super fat waveform. Like we're using a saw wave and a square wave, and the square wave is an octave up, so we're getting a lot of high harmonic content. You know, it's just like a very harmonically rich sound that's very fat in the high end and mid-range, but also very fat in the low end. And then what we're doing is we're dialing it back with a low pass. To make it this like deeper sound and just soloing in on that low end. And yeah, you can see I've got a bit of an envelope on the low pass as well. That's definitely pretty important to really get that like doom 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 punching through the mix. So you can actually hear the bass line doing that. And yeah, then we just have the amp envelope set like this. I've got a bit of drum bass on this one. This really helps to like make it sound really full. Again, you really need this to like really be punching through the mix. So the drum bass really helps just to make it as full and as big as possible. And then we have an EQ, which is just cutting out a bit of space at 100 Hz, boosting the low end. And then I just have a compressor side chaining it to the kick. And then I have the kick and the bass in a group together, just a little bit of saturation. Here's without that. And with it, so you can hear the volume difference isn't that noticeable, but it just gives it that extra like push to really glue the kick and the bass together and make the low end cohesive. And also just make each sound as fat as it can be on its own. Then we have the lead, which sounds like this. So, with this lead pattern, you can see it seems kind of complicated. It's not actually that crazy. If you look at the root notes, you can see we're walking just from G down to F, down to D sharp. So it's following exactly the same chord progression as the bass line, and then it's all just this pattern up here. So, if you look at this, these are all just notes like in the G minor scale. You know, we have like G, then we have the fourth, which is C, which is 5 notes up from G. Then we have D, which is the 5th, and that's 7 notes up from G. We have another G. We have A, which is the 9th, and then A sharp, which is the minor 3rd. You know, this style of music, in terms of like the scales and stuff that you're going to use, it's not really that crazy. You know, it's just kind of like this sort of darker minor scale sort of thing. It's just like getting really creative with it. That's really what it comes down to, is like how creative can you be with these scale intervals, and what can you do with it that's unique that people haven't heard before. Now, for the sound with this one, it's made with analog, and you can see we have 2 layers. So we have this one, and this one. So the idea here is that this is meant to sound like just a huge like mini Moog lead or something like that. The Moog is very typically used in this style of music. And one thing with the Moog is that it actually has 3 oscillators, and that's part of what allows you to make such a big fat sound, is that you can kind of spread it out across the different octaves. The thing here is that analog only has 2 oscillators, so I just have this like second one here to be essentially the 3rd oscillator. So with the first patch, you can see this one's actually kind of thin on its own. The idea here is this one's creating that more sort of metallic sound that you hear. So you can see, yeah, just a saw wave here, and then this one, the secret is the sync. That's what gives you that like kind of like that very particular metallic sound. And then on the second one, it's an octave up. And just regular. And then we have the amp envelope set like that. And then I just have a bit of vibrato. There's without it. And with it, you can hear how important that is for the sound. And yeah, and then for this layer. So you can hear this one's adding like that fatness to it. This is what really gives like the body to the sound. So this is just a saw wave, an octave down. Also got a bit of white noise. We have some white noise on the first one as well, so lots of noise going on here. We got the amp envelope set in the same way as the first one, and then I just have that same amount of vibrato. And yeah, again, like when you're layering sounds, you just have to make sure it's 2 sounds that complement each other. In this case, this lead has one very particular thing that it's doing. You know, it's giving you that mid-range, and then this one has a very particular thing it's doing by giving you the fatness, and then you put them together and they just perfectly slide into place. Then we have this going through this echo. So here's without this, and then with it, you can see what's happening is this is a really, really fast delay. It's on like 37 milliseconds. I have it on the ping pong setting as well, spreading it out. We have a bit of reverb there. And this just kind of gives a bit of like shine to the sound. This is a good technique because a lot of times when it comes out of the synth, you know, this is the sound, but you can hear like it's just kind of like dark sounding. It doesn't really have that like shimmer to it. That's what this does. Then we just have some short reverb. You can see the dry wet's pretty low on that. Then I have this drum bus. Here's without this, and it's also the saturator here. So here's without either of these. And then with them. So you can hear what these are doing. You know, these are just fattening the sound up. You really need this lead to be huge. Like, it has to just be really, really big. When I was referencing this, like, it's kind of the type of thing, like, when you think it's the biggest possible lead you've ever made in your life, make it even bigger. You know, that's where the saturator comes in. It's like, it's already huge coming out of the drum bus, but it still needed that extra push to, like, really, really come through. So that's what those are doing. And then we have this compressor just side chaining it a little bit to the kick. And then finally just an EQ cutting out the low end. And that is it for the lead. And then we have this pad. So this is actually a really simple pad. Like I said, we're in the key of G minor. So if you look at this, it's just playing a G minor triad essentially. Because we have G, the root note, D, the 5th, and then A sharp, the minor 3rd. Literally the most basic notes in a G minor chord. And then I added another G up here and spread it out by putting that A sharp up. And this is just meant to kind of drone behind the chord progression. And it creates like some musical context. Because now you're not just hearing that bass line and hearing the chords go down. You're hearing the chords change, but it's contrasted by this element which is just holding out that root chord. And yeah, for the sound with this one, it's made with analog, so this is meant to just be like a super warm, you know, like analog sounding pad. So what we have here is we have 2 saw waves, detuned a little bit, going into a low pass, which has a little bit of an envelope. And then you can also see I've got a little bit of an LFO on there, so that's what's moving that around. We get the amp envelope set like that. Then I just have a bit of vibrato and a bit of unison. And then we have some chorus and some reverb, which are spreading the sound out, you know, giving it some space in the mix. The chorus really helps to put this in a different place as well, like from the other instruments. You know, it kind of makes it more airy. So it can sit in its own place in the mix and not clash with everything. Then we have this width rack here. So this is a rack that I've made actually. Essentially what it's doing is it's just multiband widening. If you get this project file, it's available with that. But yeah, it just kind of spreads the sound out. Here's without it. And then with it. And it goes back to what I was saying with the chorus. You know, if you kind of spread the sound out like this, you know, it's going to put it in a different place in the mix so that it's not going to be fighting with everything else for space. Then we just have some drum bass just to kind of fatten it up, but also to give it more of like a warm kind of analog feel. You know, it just helps to give it that like super vibey, kind of juicy pad feel. Then we just have a compressor side chaining it to the kick and a high pass filter. And yeah, that's it for the pad. Then we have our hi-hats, which I'll just kind of go through. So here's like the main hi-hat. You can hear it, so it's this one actually. So what it is it's this hi-hat, which is like very punchy. And then the shaker on top of that. And you put those together. And you get the high end from the shaker and the mid-range and that punch from the hi-hat. And that's how you get something like this to punch through the mix. Because, you know, when you're trying to make these type of tracks yourself, you quickly find, like, if you just drop a shaker in and just put it on the upbeats, it's not going to cut through when you have all these massive sounds playing side by side with it. But if you layer it and you get sounds that complement each other and make, like, one really big hi-hat using a few different sounds, that's how you get it to kind of, like, cut through so you can still hear that throughout the whole mix. So yeah, we've got that. And then we have like this little hi-hat. Just kind of playing some extra notes in there. We have this noise as well. And that just adds like kind of some nice high end. Like if I play it in the whole mix, if I turn this off and then I turn it on, it almost just kind of sounds like it's part of the hi-hats, you know, but it's just adding a bit kind of like some high-end sizzle essentially in the mix. And then we have this noise hi-hat, which sounds like this. So yeah, what this is it's essentially like a hi-hat that I made with white noise. You just take some noise, and then you put it through a bandpass filter. And then what I'm doing here is you can see like every now and then, we're just automating the sustain and the decay of the noise. And what happens is you get this very, very alive sounding shaker because, you know, you're used to shakers that are just the whole way through. So all of a sudden this one starts like opening up like that. And it just sounds so beautiful and so like alive and dynamic. And this is something I've heard in both of these people's tracks a ton. But yeah, this is how you do it. Again, it's just a hi-hat made with noise. You just kind of get get creative a little bit with the noise and filtering it to make it actually sound like a hi-hat. And then you're just automating that to kind of like bring it to life. And the key is to be sparing. You know, you can see like it just comes every now and then. And it gives you that perfect amount of like life and evolving sounds in the drum. And it makes your tracks really stand out and sound exciting. And then the only thing that I have on there is just this auto pan. So here's without that. And then with it, it just kind of pans it around a little bit. This helps a lot because it really makes it like, it kind of goes back to what I was saying with the pad with like, you know, if you play with the stereo field like this, it helps to set this sound apart. So like, you know, you're hearing one separate thing. And then when you get those little like noise stabs when it opens up, you know, it's panning around. It just makes it sound a lot more exciting while also helping it to stand out in the mix. And then on the group of hi-hats, we just have some reverb and some drum bass and an EQ. So, you know, just giving them a little bit of space. You can hear that, you know, it helps to put them in the same room, giving them a little bit of punch and fullness with the drum bass. And then the EQ here is just cutting out the lows. You can see we cut that pretty sharply. And then we're boosting the high end to bring out that like sizzle a little bit more. And yeah, and then we just have the percussions. So basically what it is it's this clap, which is playing with that percussion. So we're getting those at the same time. That's a technique I hear in a lot of these tracks, just to have like kind of a more like bright percussion sound playing over top of the clap. You know, it gives it some nice kind of fullness and like punch with the clap. And then aside from that, we just have this little percussion and this 808 tom. So those are just kind of adding a little bit of punctuation into the percussion. You know, it just kind of brings it to life a little bit more because you're hearing like the hi-hats, which are constantly playing, and the claps, which are constantly playing, and then you get these little things just kind of coming in and out, and you know, it adds layers to it. It makes it so that it's not just stuff that's just, you know, the whole way through, but you can kind of count on it to be a few different things. And then we just have all that going through some drum busts. So here's without it. And then with it, you know, just gives these a bit more punch, a bit more fatness in the mix as well. And yeah. So that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description. This is a great way to support me. If you guys are enjoying these videos, it really helps out. And yeah, plus you get some great samples. But yeah, so that is going to be it for this one. Thank you very much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.